Hello everyone and welcome to the new episode of Eyes on Democracy with me, Jabir Deralla, and with Roger Casale. I'm finding Roger Casale in Lugano right now, and he's preparing to take part in a conference taking place in Lugano, and we are going to speak to him just in a second. Hello Roger, how is it in Lugano today?
Hello, Jabir, from Lugano in Switzerland, where I am attending the Lugano Global Forum at the invitation of the best-selling American writer and journalist Alan Friedman. And I'm one of 120 guests here. They are people from the world of politics and from business from around the world, including from the United States. There'll be an opening address from the former president of the Commission and Prime Minister of Italy, Romano Prodi, shortly after the start of the conference this afternoon. And I think it's a sign of the commitment to Ukraine that I've been invited here to represent the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. And I will have the opportunity to get our message across about all the work that we are doing in our various networks of politicians and academics and civil society actors and business people to support the work of the Coalition of the Willing, to show solidarity with Ukraine now and in the future. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be here on all our behalves and to reporting back to our audience about the conference next week after the two-day conference here in Lugano today, the Lugano Global Forum.
Indeed, the Lugano Global Forum is indeed a very important global event happening right now. But the mission, as you pointed out, is the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. You are there in the capacity of the coordinator of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, and we've had several really big events, momentous events, I would say, in Rome, in Skopje, in other places, and also the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine representatives, mainly you, but as well as Dr. Wolfgang Gressman have presented the book Defending Democracy and Human Rights, the strategic document that was produced by our partners, by the founders of the Defending Democracy Global Initiative. Could we, for the sake of our viewers and listeners, could we quickly go through the agenda, through the very dynamic agenda we've had in the past couple of months?
Well, first, let me just talk about agenda. Just finish what I was saying about the Lugano Forum, where we will be discussing the future of Europe, Europe's choices, the future of Europe, the international economy, the relationship with the United States, transatlantic relationship. Inevitably, we will talk about Donald Trump as well. But I think the primary focus is how to find stability and security in a chaotic world against the backdrop of what the term that's being used at Lugano is the new world disorder. And of course, that's not just Ukraine. We've seen events unfolding in the Middle East over the last few years that have been absolutely terrible, and in other arenas around the world, different conflicts and tensions arising. Of course, in the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, our focus is very much Ukraine, but don't let our audience think that it's just about Ukraine. You ask about the agenda for the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, and I think one of the key points that we are looking to get across is that the future of Ukraine is the future of Europe, and that the conflict in Ukraine is not limited to the territory of Ukraine. This is a hybrid warfare with cyber attacks, and we saw drones overshooting Brussels airport this week. Putin is trying to undermine our democracies. and that's certain parts of Europe are particularly vulnerable. We've talked about Moldova, we've talked about Georgia, where our colleague Dr. Reisman has been recently, and he's currently in Ukraine, but before that he was in Georgia and in Moldova. And I'm speaking to you, of course, from you're in North Macedonia. These are areas that are particularly vulnerable to Russian interference in our democracies. And so it's not just about Ukraine, it's about the future of Europe. And we are looking to wake European publics up to the threat, because although governments are well aware of the threat from Russia and that it's not just Ukraine, it's to the whole of Europe, European publics are lagging behind. I don't think that's the case if you're in Poland or in Lithuania. You're very well aware of what the Russian threat is. But if you're in France or in Italy or even in Britain and Germany, there it's only about 50% of the public that really would see the standing up to Russia and the threat from Russia as a top priority. And we need to try and change that. So I think that's one of our top agenda items in the Westminster Alliance, is working with MPs and journalists and civil society actors to alert the European public to the reality of the threat from Russia, to the hybrid nature of this threat, and then also to say, in terms of the response, I mean, the coalition of the willing, the governments have set out an agenda, and our agenda is to help to make the objectives of the coalition of the willing a reality. And I think there are 3 points, if I may, that I would make in relation to that. The first one is in relation to the military aspect of this, because yes, it's true that governments have said there will be more defence spending. The European Commission has set a deadline of 2030 and set out a roadmap for bringing European defence spending and European defence capabilities up to the required level by 2030. But I think what we have to remember when it comes to the military and to military expenditure, it's not just about the money you spend, it's about the capability that you develop, and crucially, it's about the coordination between different systems. Because if each European country, each NATO member state, is developing its own defence capabilities, how do we know that they are interoperable, that they can link together, that we have a joined up interoperable system that can stand up to Russia? So it's not just about the spending, it's also about coordination. And I think there we have a particular role to play as Westminster Alliance to get the MPs to focus on that.
The Defending Democracy Global Initiative and the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine are working on mobilizing the societies and building more resilience in the democratic societies to resist the Russian hybrid warfare in times of unpeace, let's call it that way, or a non-declared war against Europe that is being waged for a very long time against the European and Western democracies for that matter. So the military expenditure is actually investment in security and defense that has been dormant for quite some time.
Yes. That's absolutely right. The hybrid nature of warfare means that we have to see the efforts we take to counter misinformation and fake news and cyber attacks as all part of the same thing. And that's very much part of the European Commission's strategy for 2030. In fact, it's not just that, it's also an element of space and satellite technology and so on. I mean, this is happening on all fronts. It's not just about the territory of Ukraine. We're under attack in our homes, and we're under attack in space and everywhere in between. And we need a strategy that is joined up, that is well resourced, and that is able to stand up to that. So I think that's very, 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 very well said. I think the second thing is about the economy and about finances. So it's obviously an urgent need for finance in Ukraine, not just to buy military equipment, but also to recover much of the destroyed infrastructure and to support the Ukrainian society and Ukrainian people. And one of the areas where we're looking to get those funds from are from Russian assets which have been frozen. Over 250 billion euros of Russian assets have been frozen, and many people are saying that those assets should be seized and liquidated and used to support Ukraine. And there are various legal hurdles and obstacles. Most of these assets are.
You yourself are among the first people in Europe that started promoting the idea of seizing the assets of the Russian blood money that are in the European banks, and also Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, who has been very prominent in promoting the idea of seizing the assets, not freezing, but seizing the assets of the Russian blood money. Yes, and that's very important. That's an extremely important point.
Well, you have yourself written about that, and you will see your article shortly on Vox Europe, which is a wonderful media platform, independent, free, cooperative of journalists, Vox Europe. We'll see your article about the blood money, as you call it, in the Belgian banks, the Russian assets. But I just stress the point in relation to this aspect of the economy, of the need for urgency. And so one practical measure that has been put forward, is being worked on, is to actually use these assets to leverage loans which can be repaid through reparations once the conflict is over from Russia, and that will be a way of getting resources speedily to Ukraine. Because while I'm sure all of us would prefer the Russian assets to be seized, that's going to take time, and Ukraine needs the money now. So if a way can be found to get some liquidity off the back of these frozen assets before they are formally seized in the form of bank loans that we financed through reparations and secured by these frozen Russian assets, yes, then that's something that we would like to happen. Yes, and I think the third point is about culture. But Jabir, you wanted to jump in on the banks?
Yes, yes, I would like to jump into the banks issue as well. The behavior of the Belgian Prime Minister De Wever about being risky to seize the Russian assets in the clearinghouse in Brussels, Belgium, would cause a crisis of the Eurozone is a complete vague and groundless argument. I believe that by making these arguments and stalling the process of seizing the Russian blood money is actually opening the door to impunity for the aggression and encouragement of future aggressors around the world. So I think that the urgent measure that has been taken, needs to be taken, is exactly seizing the Russian blood money as soon as possible. So that's very important to understand that these things are mutually interconnected. Brussels and Belgium itself was a target of the hybrid warfare waged by the Kremlin, and that's enough of an argument to change the course and do something about this issue. Not to speak about making a real serious and big European countries' leaders naive and romantic by saying that it's unrealistic to seize the Russian blood money. That's a groundless argument in my view, and I think that part of this will be also in the article published by Vox Europe, guided by the editor Gianpaolo Accardo. Please, let's go on to the cultural sphere, which is an important sphere which needs to be taken into account these days, about Ukraine, about the renewal of Ukraine. But you, Roger, you have a very complex vision of bringing the cultural issues, not only about Ukraine, but about Europe, about new Europe, new Ukraine, and new Europe. Please tell us a bit about that.
Well, the 2 points are linked, Jabir, because we're talking about the money that we need to get to Ukraine, and as you say, a lot of that is blocked because of the what's happening with this Russian money that's locked up in Belgian banks. As we say, we hope that some of that can be released in the form of loans and made available to Ukrainian people. But I think we need to also think about how that money is going to be spent and how important it is that the Ukrainian people themselves and the Ukrainian government have a strong sense in that. We don't want this to kind of fuel or fund a new form of colonialism. The people of Ukraine don't want to replace one form of colonialism with another. They want to be, what this is about in Ukraine is the fight for a free and independent and a stable, peaceful Ukraine, a sovereign Ukraine, where the people of Ukraine decide what happens. And I think it is about culture, because it's about our values and it's about our identity. And the Ukrainian people have a choice between autocracy and what they see in Europe, which is freedom and the rule of law and democracy. And they are choosing rule of law and freedom and democracy, and that is an expression of their identity, and that has to do with culture, and that can be expressed in many ways, not just through politics. And I think that our friends at the European Cultural Foundation campaigned for a long time for a European cultural New Deal for Ukraine, and they've been successful with that. And in the reconstruction money that is being set aside by the European Union, there will be particular funds available to fund cultural projects. It's not just rebuilding the Odessa Opera House, but it's also investing in libraries and in the cultural infrastructure in Ukraine. And what we know from our involvement is how much Ukraine has to offer Europe and the world. Just look at that in the relation to defense and to drones and so on. We have so much to learn from the experience of Ukraine in standing up to the Russian invader and the Russian and Putin, the aggressor, that will serve us well, because this is coming our way. It's already here, this aggression from Putin. But I just make the point that we have so much to learn from the Ukrainian people, and they have so much to offer also in relation to culture. And we need to nurture that. And I think that's important because of the point I've said about culture being an expression of our identity and our values. But I think we also need to remember that there is a very deep trauma in the Ukrainian people as a result of what has happened. Many people have lost sons or even daughters and husbands, sons and brothers and sisters at the front in Ukraine, or through the attacks on people's homes and on schools and hospitals in Ukraine, in the free Ukraine itself, as well as in the occupied part of Ukraine. And this has been going on in February. It'll be 4 years, won't it? On the 24th of February, when we will be holding a series of events to commemorate the Russian invasion, 4 years of the Russian invasion, on the 24th of February 2026. The very deeply traumatic emotional experience for the whole of Ukrainian society, and especially for those involved in the military. And so I think if we want to think about the reconstruction of Ukraine and the new Ukraine that will emerge from the old, that needs to start, as the First Lady of Ukraine said herself at the Ukraine Reconstruction Conference in Rome in July, that needs to start with the Ukrainian people themselves. And therefore there needs to be an investment in culture, but also in health and in particular taking care of people's psychological and emotional health to help people through the trauma. So I'm very pleased to see that campaign of the European Cultural Foundation has been successful. They spoke at our conference in Skopje on the 8th of October, and we'll be working very closely with them in the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. So our agenda in the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine is to get the military, economic, and also cultural resources to Ukraine that Ukraine needs now and will need in the future to survive and later to thrive as a free, democratic nation.
Indeed, and those are very important topics that you just listed in I would say bullet points, and we need to remember that Ukraine is giving an example in exactly every sphere of the political and social life in the of a nation, a bright example with heroism and with resilience. But also we need to remember that Ukraine is not only defending itself, it defends the European continent, it defends the European freedom and democracy. And we need to repay Ukrainians for their heroism, for their sacrifice for these values. And of course, we can also take an example of how creative the Ukrainians are in both defense and in the cultural sphere and in all spheres of the life. So that's extremely valuable experience of the European continent, of the European nations, to see how freedom is defended and how life is being enriched despite the genocidal and brutal aggression that is waged by the Kremlin. At the end, please, Roger, let's just bullet point again the events that we had in the past several months. So it was a promotion of this book in Santinumi, Roma. Then we also had a conference the day after in Rome, again organized by the Centro Studi Internazionali, supported by the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in Rome. And please go on because you know the agenda, and then I will pop in with some more information.
Yeah. So if we go right back, we can find the roots of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine in two conferences that New European People's Forum held with the Economic Forum from Carpax in London in 2022, at the end of 2022 and at the end of 2023. And of course, we took that forward, work forward at the Economic Forum in Carpax in 2024. And then in May 2025, we had the formal launch of the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine at a conference held at the House of Commons on the 13th of May 2025, chaired by Alex Sobel MP, who is the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Ukraine in the UK Parliament. That was also attended by James Arbuthnot, Lord Arbuthnot, a former Conservative Defence Minister. Alex, of course, is a Labour MP and also happens to be the UK trade envoy to Ukraine, although our interest in working with Alex is limited to his role as the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group. So then we came to Rome and we had the presentation of our book at Cafe Santinumi in the San Giovanni area of Rome, Defending Democracy and Human Rights, our policy recommendations. We used to talk, didn't we, Jabir, about promoting democracy. Now we talk about defending democracy. And that was together with Eric Joseph from Europa Now. Eric Joseph, the French journalist living in Rome, the French correspondent for Libération in Rome, a well-attended meeting and a live stream to present the book from Cafe Santinumi. And the next day we were at the European Parliament office in Rome for the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine meeting, hosted by our partners, our Italian partners, Centro Studi Internazionali, headed up by Francesco Guardiosi and Emanuele Ericchiello. So we're very grateful to them for what was a very well attended and a successful, from our point of view, successful event, because it brought together, for example, Emanuele Lopefido from the Fratelli d'Italia, the centre right of Italian politics, with Senator Filippo Sensi from the Partito Democratico, the centre left, and we also had contributions from Olivier Védrine from France, and we would have had the German Europe Minister Günther Kirchbaum, but he was not available due to the train strike in Italy. But we saw him later on that afternoon, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and we gave him a copy of our book, Defending Democracy and Human Rights. And then we had an event in Skopje, an international conference in Skopje, Macedonia, on the 8th of October, again with many high-level speakers, and including representatives from industry and Michael Clayforth Carr, and from the European Cultural Foundation, Friso Virsum, but also from the Südostgesellschaft, Gudrun Steinmacher, and others, including Lina Kush directly from Ukraine. So that was in Skopje on the 8th of October. And then on the 24th of November, we will have another networking meeting from the House of Commons, chaired by Alex Sobel. And on the 12th of December, we will have our annual meeting in Berlin, but also a hybrid meeting online of the network. And then in January, we will be back in Rome for further meetings in the Camera dei Deputati, the lower house, and the Senato, the upper house of the Italian Parliament. And on the 24th of February, we will have a series of events, including one organized by the Jean Monnet Association in France, to commemorate the 4th anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Putin's Russia.
Yes, and let's not forget the meeting you had with several very dignified gentlemen like Lord James Arbuthnot in the Royal Automobile Club in London, also with Sir David Lidington. I would like to mention that while we were discussing these topics, I just received a message from our dear colleague, Dr. Wolfgang Gressmann, who informed me about the start of their project in Moldova. Before that, he was in Ukraine, in several places in Ukraine, working together with the partners from all across the region and working on freedom of media and other topics that are connected to the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine mission, and also the Defending Democracy Global Initiatives programs. So there are several other places and people that we met, also here in Skopje, and you in London, in Italy, now in just hours before the start of the Global Forum in Lugano. And these are all events and meetings and networking events that are strengthening the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine. What's next, Roger?
So what's next for the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine is to leverage these networks to really get some focus on the practical work that needs to be done to make the ambitions of the Coalition of the Willing a reality. And I've mentioned 3 of those today. One of them is to make sure that as well as an increase in military spending, we have a more coordinated, joined-up approach so that we really develop the capabilities that are needed to stand up to the threat from Russia, not just to Ukraine, to the whole of Europe itself. Remembering also, as you rightly pointed out, Jabir, that this is a hybrid warfare. And so this is hybrid warfare. And therefore, we also need to develop resilience in the face of cyber attacks to our infrastructure and interference with our democracy and with our society, all aimed at demoralizing European publics, disrupting daily life and undermining our democracy. And we need to have the tools to stand up to that. And a lot of that is about public awareness and public understanding. There's only so much that you can expect governments to do. We all need to do something as citizens. We all have something to do. Each of us can show solidarity with Ukraine. It means so much to the people of Ukraine. The smallest act of solidarity means the world to them. All of us can be more critical and more aware of the threat of manipulation by, particularly on social media, by directly from Russia or by agents acting on behalf of the Russian regime. All of us can try to understand and explain to others the need for European governments to increase their defense expenditure, because without a strong defense, without peace, we have nothing at all. And so we need to get more public support behind the increase in defense expenditure that is needed. So I think there's a job for us to do in the Westminster Alliance for Ukraine, which is about mobilizing parliamentary support, and through that, and also directly, public support for the work that needs to be done to defend Ukraine and to defend Europe.
Wonderfully put, Roger, as always. At the end, I'd like to invite our viewers and listeners to get to visit our defendingdemocracy.global website, and also find ways to help propose ways to join and follow our activities. Roger, maybe you have something to add to my last call.
Yes, we do urge you to keep looking at the website that's constantly being uploaded with new information and new content, including the individual contributions from the speakers at our events, which are very instructive. I know we've learned so much, haven't we, Jabir, ourselves, from the people who've come and spoken at our events. Do keep in touch with us. Do write to us. Do get in touch. We'll put a note about that at the end of this podcast. And remember that it's not just about governments. It's not just about parliamentarians. It's about you and me. It's about us. About what we can do together. And in particular, that point about the need for a new cultural deal for Ukraine. We want to see all kinds of friendships and links developing for the future that will be so necessary for the future. Ukraine has so much to give the world. It's a shining example, as Jabir said, but it also has so much to teach us, so much experience to share with us. And so I do hope that if you're watching this as a citizen, that you will realize how important your individual contribution is. The solidarity that you show, the commitment that you bring, the focus that you that you're able to put on the need to support and defend Ukraine now and in the future, because in doing so, it's not just about them, it's about us, it's about our future together. The future of Europe is the future of Ukraine, and the new Ukraine is already emerging from the old, and a new Europe will rise as well, if we are able to do what we must do, which is come together and stand together to defend Ukraine. Slava Ukraina.
Heroям slava. Thank you for keeping your eyes on democracy.